Welcome, everybody. I'm Canadian Matt. This is
Oh, I'm American Matt Owen.
American Matt Owen. You can find us on a90skid.com and Twitter and all those places. Of course, we are going to be ranking what we think are the top 3 Telltale game series.
Telltale Adventure.
The top 3 games that use that janky-ass engine. So,
truest story ever.
Here is the list so far. We got these are the ones in consideration. We're going to whittle it down to a top 3, and we're going to try and agree on the order, just like Giant Bomb does.
Yes,
because that's the best system. Game of Thrones, Batman, Walking Dead Season 1, Wolf Among Us, Borderlands, Walking Dead Season 2.
Yes.
Anything else you want to throw on there?
No, I mean, if we wanted to include Walking Dead Season 3 or Guardians of the Galaxy, I feel like those aren't even finished yet, so
yeah,
those don't count. Only finished, completed. We could also do Minecraft Story Edition, but I have not played all of it, so unless you have,
what did you think of it? Of the parts that you played? Is it a worthy contender?
Yes, it is very, very, very well done, but I think that...
Is it making the top 3?
No, it won't make top 3. So for those who may have been like, ooh, Minecraft, I'm not sure. If you like Telltale games, you'll still like it, but it's not going to hit our top 3.
Thank you, Giant Bomb, for this amazing format.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, well, full props to them for this system. All right, so we're not going to put Minecraft on there.
What do you want to talk about first, Matt? All these games.
Let's whittle them down. The ones you immediately don't want to have on here.
Okay.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I've never seen this show.
Okay.
All right, I hear people talking about it. I mostly see people on Facebook whining about spoilers.
Yeah.
People who can't stop going on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, get a life. And I played it. I bought it. It was cheap. And man, I was bored. It was so slow. I'm sure that would be a real grower, but I don't buy in.
You think?
Well, yeah, I don't buy into the excuse anymore of this. Well, it gets pretty good like 5-10 hours in. That's not good enough. All right. No more of that. If it should, the top 3 I have in my head grabbed me immediately, and that's what I want. So for me, Game of Thrones, no dice.
I will tell you. Here's the thing: as a person who is caught up on Game of Thrones and cannot wait for the new season, which is July 16th or 14th, I believe, for all you GOT fans. Game of Thrones does one thing well, which is it does not retread the entire story or really try to retell any of the Game of Thrones HBO stuff. Mm-hmm. What it does is you play as... in Game of Thrones, there's a million different houses or a million different families with a bunch of different characters. And what they do in the game is that you play as a new house. A new group of people, a new family. So you do get to see things through fresh eyes. But what the problem with Game of Thrones, there's 2 problems with it. One, they switched off the cel-shaded preference they usually have for their art style for this weird watercolor, muddy kind of... It's just not a great style. And then second, there is a huge amount of expected knowledge. And it's the same thing I'll say, and we say it all the time in our Harry Potter reviews. A movie should stand on its own regardless of the source material. You shouldn't have to read an entire franchise of books to know what's going on in a video game based off of a TV show about the books. And I think that's where Game of Thrones falls flat. It does have some very, very, very good, oh my God, that's crazy, can't believe they did that moments, similar to like the Walking Dead series. But as a whole season, it just falls flat towards the end and eventually becomes ineffective. It's not necessarily an entire circle of just like, oh, and what was the point? But for a Game of Thrones fan, it came out after season 5, I believe, and it takes place earlier in the seasons. So it wasn't like it was topical or giving you anything new. It felt very retready. It felt like a cash grab. So while I think it's not the worst Telltale game there is, it's definitely close to the bottom. So that one can get really, which sucks because I really love Game of Thrones. But did you think there was any redeeming qualities to it at all? Like at all?
I think it went for more of a larger scope
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the Telltale games feel like very narrow stories. They're focused around one group of people most of the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they do really well. So this felt a lot grander, and if I would have stuck with it, it would have, unraveled itself to this wonderful tapestry. But
as a final point, unlike other Telltale games, you do play almost with each chapter. You play as about 4 or 5 different children of the family that I spoke of. They're called the Foresters, and one of them is in, this part of the land. One of them is over here in this part of the land. They're all doing very different things, so you get a bunch of different gameplay experiences, but it feels disjointed. So it had potential there to explore a lot of different character storylines, but it fell flat. So I am ready to, yeah, let's cut off its head. It's done.
Wonderful.
What's
next
the
up?
Next one?
I am not that strong on Batman.
Yep, I can agree with that. I think Batman. When Telltale did Walking Dead so well, people were like, "Ooh, I want to see more graphic novels, more comic adaptations, et cetera, et cetera." But the thing about Telltale is they like to take liberties. When you have a beloved franchise as much as Batman, there's certain liberties that are going to be very hard to take.
Okay.
I didn't beat Batman. I didn't beat it to like the end of the season. I actually dropped off about the second or third episode. Did you play much of it or no? Just like a teeny bit?
First episode.
Okay. The first episode was a good setup, but the problem is that Batman tries to, not the character but the series, they try to throw a curveball as to who the villain is, and for anybody who has followed Batman lore or likes the films or the comics, it really doesn't make sense. The writing is pretty decent, the fight scenes are okay, but what it lacks is the Telltale charm. There is always a sort of Telltale charm to these games, and Batman goes super serious and completely misses the mark of the whole adventure genre. So that one, even more so than Game of Thrones, is an easy knockoff for me. I didn't even feel like it was worth finishing. I'm sure I'll go back at some point and maybe I could change my mind. But as far as drawing me in, like you said, I don't have to wait until episode 3 of Batman to get good before I decide I'm done with it. And
for sure.
It didn't start off strong. I don't know if it ends strong, but it's not going to be a top 3.
Yeah, I think The Wolf Among Us set a pretty good precedent for how they could have done it with a real serious gumshoe film noir vibe, but it didn't.
Yes.
I just don't think it did enough with the Batman license, the detective side of things, to make it really stand out when there are 3 huge contenders on this list.
Let's use that as a bridgeway into one of my favorites, Wolf Among Us, because Batman is the world's greatest detective, but then we have Big B Wolf, star of Wolf Among Us, who is an even better detective that figures out an even more compelling mystery than Batman had. Matt, what did you like about Wolf Among Us the most? Because there's a lot of stuff to unpackage here. Very cool art style, a lot of really cool inspirations, a very violent story. What was it about Wolf Among Us that you liked or disliked?
Wolf Among Us felt it felt like there were a lot of moments that were shockingly critical path.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
There were a lot of really tough decisions. I mean, The Walking Dead season 1 had, I felt like, one big decision.
Yeah, 1 or 2 sprinkled in, but I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, the big one comes in where it's choose this person is going to live or this person is going to live. But I felt like a lot of times in The Wolf Among Us, people's limbs were getting ripped off based on your decisions, and a lot of them were very difficult, very gray area, and then you were constantly confronted with the consequences of those decisions. One-armed guys who hated your guts, and there was no remorse after it, and you had to live with that, and you had to just assume the role of this detective who has to keep these people under his thumb, and you start to feel sorry for these people that are kind of enslaved in a way, and are forced to sort of live underground in the darkness. So I think in terms of the tone it's set, the weight behind the consequences, I think it did the most with the format in the way that you can't get out, the way that you don't get out of a lot of other RPGs, for example.
For those who don't know, The Wolf Among Us is a adaptation of a graphic novel called Fairy Tale. I believe that's what it's called, Fairy Tales, where it takes place in modern New York, and you have all of the different fairy tale creatures, like the pig and the big bad wolf and Little Red Riding Hood, but they're all forced to take on human forms because they're living in modern day New York. So the big bad wolf, Big B Wolf, is the sheriff of this town. But like Matt said, he isn't a hero. He's an anti-hero. He is the big bad wolf. Like Matt said, there's oftentimes consequences in which your character would totally be super, super violent, but you feel like you want to choose maybe the better path. The thing that The Wolf Among Us does so well is it takes this very, very cool style of fairy tale, flips it on its head, makes it super morbid, but it's also got a excellent wrap of a mystery that's super compelling, and compounded upon that, like Matt said, the consequences to your actions feel like they could mess up your investigation.
Yeah.
And I think what Telltale games embodied the most is the ability to adapt a franchise into a new and refreshing take on it, really push the style of that forward, but also let the player feel like they're making a decision. Every single Telltale game opens with the same few lines of dialogue or the same few lines of text. It says, this game is tailored by the choices you make, etc., etc. And oftentimes, like in Batman, Game of Thrones, you didn't feel like anything was really happening. But Wolf Among Us, not only did they make sure the consequences were apparent and very, very visual, but they were oftentimes violent and shocking. I think that beyond the stylistic version or the stylistic aspect of it and the way they handled it and the story, I think The Wolf Among Us is probably one of the best ones when it comes down to consequences and story, which is the very exact reason I started off playing Telltale.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think? And I kind of want to avoid spoilers, even though this is so long.
Sure.
It's been out for quite a while, but I want to avoid spoilers because the mystery is that good.
All right.
What did you think about the characterizations of the fairy tales as people? Because that's what struck me the best. You have things like Beauty and the Beast. You have things like a bunch of like super obscure fairy tales. Mm-hmm. The Man Who Lived in the Crooked Shoe, et cetera, et cetera.
They just felt to me like real people. I had no knowledge of the
perfect answer. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
I had no knowledge of the comic or the graphic novel, and even them, it's just as fairy tale characters. Yeah, I know what a big bad wolf is, but I remember them more for their personalities and their quirks. They were all very fleshed out. They all had a lot of their own agendas that were working with other different factions, and they just felt like real people dealing with real situations. So, all right, so that one's definitely on the list, and it's a very strong contender.
Oh yeah, I'm
putting number one,
keeping it up there.
And I would say, and we kicked off Batman, right? We kicked off Game of Thrones.
Kicked off Batman, and real quick, I'll just because we said Batman, I would tell anybody who's listening to this now, if Guardians of the Galaxy, if you're a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, I know that you and Matt Hayes had talked about it at extent. Guardians of the Galaxy, in my opinion, is a pretty good adaptation of the series. So if you're a fan of the series, you might want to check that one out. Only currently the first episode is out. So like I said, we're not talking about ones that aren't finished. But this one is pretty good as well. So as a PSA, if you like Guardians, if you like Telltale games, you might like Guardians of the Galaxy. So check that one out.
All right, so it's going to come down to... And Wolf Among Us is definitely on there.
Yeah, we also have
I would keep Walking Dead season 1. I think is on there, and I would rather have Borderlands on there than Walking Dead season 2 because I felt like Walking Dead season 2 was fine, and maybe it was an impossible act to follow because of the cultural zeitgeist that was Walking Dead season 1. I mean, this thing was winning Game of the Year
at the Video Game Awards. Yeah. Of all places.
It put Telltale on the map. It's kicked off a whole trend of more consequence and branching paths in games. And I mean, it led Telltale to them taking that janky engine to just about every franchise after that. So I just didn't get too attached into season 2. I didn't really just playing as the young girl didn't have the same weight as the sort of anti-hero thrust into a protective role.
I feel like Walking Dead season 1 really lets you play Lee kind of how you wanted to play him.
Sure.
As a very protective kind of father figure, as someone who didn't give a crap about anything. And then when season 2 came around, although it felt just as well produced and just as well acted, some of the choices didn't feel... I would say that Walking Dead season 2 is when it started to feel like Telltale, regardless of the choices you made, really didn't make a huge impact. You were just seeing a story as they wanted you to see it. And to that point, Walking Dead season 2's main antagonist, Clementine, she was her own person. You didn't really get to choose a whole lot about how she acted. Obviously, the weaker of the two, and a huge follow-up to season 1, so it was definitely not going to be as popular as season 1. But even compared to other Telltale games, I don't think Walking Dead season 2 comes close to some of them. So I'm ready to... I'll wipe season 2 off the list, but I think Walking Dead season 1 definitely deserves a spot on this list.
Sorry, Clementine. Season 2's gotta go.
Sorry, honey.
So then it comes down to... Let's talk about Borderlands. I've never played a Borderlands game. What games have I played?
Really?
And I wasn't. And I've got... when you have a friend that is so in love with a game or a franchise or a band, and it makes you hate it. I had a friend that was so obsessed with Smashing Pumpkins, I couldn't listen to them. And then later on, I realized, they're actually pretty good. I got a friend that just loves Borderlands. Tori, he's been on a couple games. He played Zelda with us, and he made me hate it. But this game, I don't know who any of these people were. Handsome Jack, whatever. And they explained them so well. The voice acting was good, and the writing. This is the funniest video game I've ever played. And I'm not talking just, it's funny for a video game. This was a consistently hilarious game. And what I loved about it is that when you were given, say, 3 or 4 options of things to say, and one of the options was stupid.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking that 4th answer on the driving test, stupid, like go through an intersection honking your horn to let everyone know you're running a red light, dumb.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would just pick that stupid answer. And the game was right there to say you said that to a character. That character would respond and say, like, why'd you say that? That was dumb. That doesn't make any sense. So I felt like, they were always there to pick it up. And it didn't feel like anything just kind of went into, well, it's a video game, and that's how the writing goes. So I felt it's awareness with what a video game is and what characters are, and just it felt very, it felt like these were your best friends in the way that they're not going to let you get away with BS and saying dumb things.
Tales from the Borderlands, for me, was interesting because oftentimes when you see a super popular developer like Walking Dead Season 1, Telltale blew them out of the water, you see them try to start to put their hands in, or those who hold the money start to put their hands in the projects more than they should. It's kind of why I thought Walking Dead Season 2 didn't do so well. Tales from the Borderlands represented to me really the creatives getting the opportunity to do what they wanted and adapt a franchise into their vision. Because you haven't played Borderlands, but Borderlands' whole thing is, despite being a gun fetish RPG with tons of weapons and people to shoot and stuff like that, it is a funny and a very irreverently weird game. So the fact that they brought that in, and the fact that they set up the characters so well, I was surprised that you'd never played a Borderlands game just because they're very good games, but I was even more surprised that me coming into it having the context, I super understood everything. You, with no context, were very easy to pick up on the different story beats and the characters the way they were because they were acted so well. But furthermore to that, this game is unabashedly just crazy. There's a giant bandit like RV thing that busts through a wall in the beginning of the first episode, and there is just blaringly loud dubstep by a Canadian artist that I was a super big fan of. And to see this artist that I know is underground, he's not immensely popular when this game came out, and for them to use him, it's like, okay, so they're really not just going for what's new, hot, popular, and what will draw people. They're really trying to capture the essence of it. And I think that's why Tales from the Borderlands is probably one of, if not the best, Telltale game, because it really truly captures exactly the franchise's heart without rehashing anything from the franchise, which is why it's so good. But I agree with the hilarity on it. That the writing, I don't know who did the writing and the dialogue and all that stuff, but it is quip, witty as all hell. Like, it is so good.
You know, and in terms of choices, where Telltale started to embrace that diamond configuration where you get a lot of choices in the middle, but it's all going to kind of lead to the bottom. I think they did a really good way of making you feel like you had more of an RPG role where later on in the game, you get a chance to put together a vault team, and a lot of decisions and your actions and how much money you've saved and et cetera, come into play for who you get to recruit in that final mission.
Ah, that's pretty cool.
That meant nothing to me because I don't care about any of these other characters that I didn't really get to play with too much. But I appreciate for some people that might be important for them. Even though I think this is one of the best written games I've ever played and is easily the funniest game I've ever played, and I had a great time with it, other than the last half of the last episode, I thought felt too long and dragged, and I didn't like it. But
the last episode specifically, you felt?
The last half of the last episode. I thought the first half of the last episode, when they're doing everything up in space, Handsome Jack, that's great. And then all of a sudden you need to go fight some monster that just kind of seemed to come out of nowhere. But here's the thing where I would drop this one a bit down. I don't think I really needed to be playing this game. I think I would have rather just watched it as a movie. I did the usual, you go into a room, and Hayes was talking about this with Guardians. He's like, the puzzles were so bland. It was search the bodies and eventually you get through. I didn't feel, I mean, some of the quick time events were kind of fun. Actually, the final, I'm not going to spoil it. But there's some fun quick time in it, but I would have been fine just watching it. I had the controller in my hands and I did a couple easy things here and there, but actually most of the gameplay just slowed it down.
Well, this is one of the biggest things that I had about episode 3 specifically of Walking Dead season 3, and I won't spoil because that's something that just came out, is that entire episode, which is about an hour long, there is none of those exploration areas where you walk around and look at items. It's all an interactive movie that has quick time events. And to that point too that Matt had said about, or Hayes had said about Guardians of the Galaxy, there's really a trifecta kind of gameplay scenarios when it comes to a Telltale game. You do light puzzle solving, quick time events, and then you make dialogue choices. Guardians of the Galaxy felt like it had none of the puzzles, and I felt like Borderlands itself had very light puzzle solving, but like you said, it is something that if you just had a button and, quick time event, I'm just kind of watching it. But that's because I feel like Tales was much more cinematic than most of the other ones. But I could see why the lack of the puzzle solving or any of the exploration might make you want to knock it down a few. But it sounds like we have our top 3 at this point.
For sure. It's Tales, Borderlands, Wolf, and Walking Dead Season 1. If we want to compare the action to, say, the quick time event in Wolf Among Us, the very first one, when it just sets the tone where the big bad wolf comes in. And this is the first part of the game.
Yeah. It's like the very first episode.
Yeah, there's a disturbance and he goes in to deal with it, and they have a fight scene, and it's a really, really long quick time event. And what I liked about it was that it was okay to fail, and you could fail a couple times, and it would just bring you down another branching path.
Yeah.
And the action in A Walking Dead Season 1 felt pretty important as well. There was a lot of kind of Resident Evil type moments, you know, because you have these clunkily controlled characters, you're shooting zombies, you could die and you could lose. And I felt like Borderlands, they were time events. You didn't have to be quick. It just was waiting for you to push the button. It was
press the button to do the thing.
Yeah, it was very hand-holdy. I didn't really feel much intensity with it. So I would, even though it's so funny, I would be willing to drop that one down to number 3 because it didn't need to be a game, other than getting to choose some of the dialogue. And I wouldn't mind seeing them go for just a complete dialogue game and focus more on that and the branching paths of that, and letting you role play in that way.
Well, the more and the more that they kind of seem to shy away from the open walking around exploration, I think they would do very, very well if they kind of went full Heavy Rain, Quantic Dream on us and just made it all very much dialogue choices and really, really, really good action scenes. Because between Wolf Among Us and Guardians of the Galaxy, Telltale has proven that they can do exciting, entertaining, and really, really fun fight scenes with the QuickTime event engine they got going on. So I'd like to see way, way more of that. Okay, I agree with you. Tales from the Borderlands at number 3.
All right.
What do we want to do for number 2? Between Wolf Among Us and Walking Dead Season 1, the one that started it all and the fantastic fairy tale, what's going to take this number 2 spot, you think?
I mean, there were other Telltale games before Walking Dead, but they were not good.
Yeah, they weren't the best.
No, they were. I think Jurassic Park was pretty bad.
That was Telltale. I played that. Jeez, I forgot that was Telltale.
Yeah,
Jurassic Park is at the bottom of the list.
It was actually.
If this went further down, it goes all the way to the bottom.
It should have been. It should have been a prototype, but it came out. Hopefully they broke even on it, made some money, and it led to these projects. Well, if you're looking at it in terms of how they hold up today, or their
I would say full package and how they hold up, yeah.
Because if you're looking at cultural impact, Walking Dead Season 1, that was a must play.
Yeah, it's no doubt.
That was everybody was talking about it, and that, I mean, I think that could be taken into account. You wouldn't have The Wolf Among Us without Walking Dead Season 1.
True. Very, very, very true.
I think Walking Dead Season 1 probably had a bigger culmination, a bigger climax moment.
Yes.
I would say. But I don't think it had as many consistent moments as Wolf Among Us, where...
I agree with you completely. I think Wolf Among Us was great every single episode.
Yeah.
But I think that Walking Dead was more culturally important and had better parts of episodes that greatly outshadowed Wolf Among Us. But Wolf Among Us was much more consistent and consistently great. But never quite got to the peaks of absolutely amazing, which Walking Dead 1 pulled off. So I guess the question here is what really... To me, I think I care if a game is great 10 years after you play it versus the day it pops up, and still is good and entertaining and really has all of the aspects that make a developer or a publisher's game that game. I think Walking Dead Season 1 needs to be acknowledged in the way that many classic films and classic music artists need to be acknowledged for starting the genre, for kicking it off. But that would be not dishonest, but it would be doing a disservice to Wolf Among Us if we used that as the reason why that Walking Dead 1 is better than it. Because I think Wolf Among Us did things a lot better than Walking Dead Season 1 did.
It did. In terms of
tough. This is tough.
In terms of what makes a Telltale game, I think the Wolf Among Us really nailed all those aspects the best. But in terms of what just made an actual game and an actual experience, I think of the journey that you go on in The Walking Dead, the way every episode, even if it's not filled with a lot of highlights, it felt like a great TV show where it's special from episode 1 and you're just along for the ride. I think you get to know the characters a lot more in The Walking Dead because they focus on a smaller group and they really flesh them out and you interact with them a lot. And you just, by the end of The Walking Dead, you feel like you have gone through some shit with all these people.
There is a huge emotional connection in Walking Dead. And while there's still that emotional connection in Wolf Among Us did not make me cry in its final episode, Like,
sure.
There is certain amounts of moments in Walking Dead 1 that really pull emotional responses from you, and that is worth a lot.
And when I think about the relationships you have with who's the white dad?
Kenny?
Yeah, Kenny. When I think of the relationship with Kenny that the main character had, and as it progressed, where I thought I could predict where it was going, and the ups and the downs, that it went through, and reaching a point where, he might just never be able to forgive you for something, and it felt like somebody that, oh, well, this is my best friend. We're never gonna have any problems. And it felt like when you have something with a best friend, we hit that fork on the road. So I feel like, whereas in The Wolf Among Us, there were some more like intense and visceral moments too. But I felt like I always felt a little bit removed from those characters. Like they had their world going on, and I was just a visitor in it. And I mean, that's kind of the role of the wolf, is to be on the outside.
Yeah.
So I would say, in terms of a Telltale game, Wolf Among Us did everything a Telltale game can do well, and did it better than any other Telltale game. But I would put, as an overall game, I would give it to Walking Dead.
Walking Dead. The only thing that keeps biting me back is that I don't like... No, it's not that I don't like, it's that I have a giant conflict in my head, because like I said earlier, I like it when a Telltale game adapts and takes all the aspects of a franchise and makes it their own without rehashing anything. Yeah. And Walking Dead Season 1 specifically rehashed elements from the show.
Never watched it.
Okay. The second episode of Walking Dead Season 1, where they go to the farmhouse and there's the shed and stuff like that, that is direct rip off of Season 2 of Walking Dead, the show. Although,
so did that take your enjoyment down?
Yes, but then no, because they turned it on its head and made it really, really cool. So that's why I'm conflicted. But honestly, the more I start to think about Walking Dead 1 and the way that it impacted me, I am okay with putting Wolf Among Us at number 2, but let it be known that if it was my way, it'd be at number 1. But I do think, Walking Dead Season 1 deserves it. It does. Wolf Among Us is fantastic. It's great. It does everything it should. But Walking Dead Season 1 is, I think, the only Telltale game that really is able to pull a deep emotional impact. And any piece of media, whether movie, game, art, music, anything that can pull a great emotional response from you, means that it has a great script and it's very, very compelling. So
sure,
I think we have the ranked list here, man.
I would put them there. Walking Dead Season 1 at number 1.
Number 2, what is it?
Wolf Among Us would be a very, very, very close 2.
And number 3?
Tales from the Borderlands.
There we have it, folks.
I would actually say that the Wolf Among Us is a very, like, Borderlands is very good, but I'd say it's a distant 3.
Yeah.
Whereas Wolf Among Us and Walking Dead Season 1 were splitting hairs. They're almost a 1A and a 1B.
And I feel like Wolf Among Us would be better off, or I feel better about the first season, because, without spoiling anything, it ends on a big old cliffhanger or a big old what if. I feel like Wolf Among Us Season 2 would make me feel better about Season 1, or give me some closure.
And that didn't ever come out, did it?
No. So, yeah, I think that needs to happen for sure. After this obsession they have with doing superhero stuff with Batman and then Guardians, hopefully they'll go back to some of their older stuff. I mean, they've already done 3 seasons of Walking Dead.
Obsession. So. I think it's a financial decision. It's whatever the bigger IPs came calling.
Over money.
Yeah. What's a more attractive IP? The second season of a cult hit graphic novel, or Minecraft, Batman. Yeah.
I really have to play through Minecraft now, because my younger brother, Minecraft also, fun fact, is one of the only, I believe it might be the only Telltale series that had an extended extra pass. So the original series was 1 to 5, like all of the other Telltale games are. You have episodes 1 through 5. Yeah. But then Minecraft went on and added the adventure pack that had 6, 7, and 8, which, according to my younger brother who played through all of those, he said those are just as good. So I wonder if maybe that is a fantastic title that I was just sleeping on. So I'll have to play that too. Maybe you'll have to play. Game of Thrones to completion.
No,
no, I won't make you do that, Matt. I would never make you do that.
I was so ready to jump into Guardians if it was going to be as funny as Borderlands. I thought
it is pretty funny.
Is it as funny as Borderlands? Is it close?
Okay, well, I guess have you seen the Guardians of the Galaxy film?
Yes.
Did you find that as funny as Tales from the Borderlands?
No.
Okay, well, that's pretty much Guardians of the Galaxy. Telltale's Guardians is pretty much Marvel's cinematic universe version of Guardians, except for a little bit toned down on the goofiness. You know, so Star-Lord is a man-child, and Groot is just, I am Groot, and Drax is super literal. But Tales from the Borderlands had a very, very kind of in-your-face comedy, a very
oh my
joking
God. There were
comedy.
so many jokes. I couldn't believe how many they put in, and some of the like really grotesque moments too. I'd say what it did do really well in terms of it, maybe not difficult puzzles or quick time events, but there were some kind of like slow time events where it was very cringeworthy to push that joystick, and they would make you do it.
Episode 2, the beginning of episode 2.
Do it. Yeah.
Do it. Yeah, I would say that Guardians is funny, but it is not funny in the way that Tales is funny. It's more slapstick, one-off kind of Marvel jokes, whereas Tales from the Borderlands is just an expert team of writers giving it their all, and yeah. But hell yeah, man. I really hope that Telltale does way, way, way more stuff and kind of goes back to their old consequences matter, let's tell emotionally engaging stories as they go forth as a company.
They seem to be experimenting. A lot of them have different flavors. I mean, Borderlands was great writing. Wolf Among Us was the consequences and the intensity, and then Walking Dead was the long plot and the character development.
So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. But for now, that was a good discussion. I'm glad we got it out there.
Yeah, thanks Giant Bomb for the format.
Thanks Giant Bomb.
Yeah, it was a great format. I'll tell you what, if you are interested in their format, there's a fantastic debate between Brad Schumacher and Vinny Caravel and the rest of them arguing. This is like 2009, right, or whatever, arguing about what had the best DLC. And Shoemaker was the only one championing BioShock's 2 DLC because everybody was all about Mass Effect 2 that year.
Mass Effect on Mass Effect. Giant Bomb is they're a great show. You should listen to us instead because we're better. But
listen to it all. Listen to it all.
Listen to all the video game journalists, but only on a 90s Kid and Game Thing Talk can you find ranked lists of Telltale games.
There you go.
Well,
thank you everybody. Thanks for watching. Share it with somebody that might like it.
Yeah, do it.
All right, bye for now.